The variance is just the standard deviation squared. So if the standard deviation is, say, 4, what's the variance going to be? If the standard deviation is 4, what's the variation going to be? 4 squared is 16. If the standard deviation is 4, the variance is 16. The variance is always just the square of the standard deviation. So one more time, if the standard deviation is 7, what's the variance? 49. We're going to talk about variance less than we talk about standard deviation. Mean and standard deviation are going to be our 2 most important things for the whole rest of the semester. Everything else we mention a few times and then kind of let it go. But mean and standard deviation you'll see over and over every day. Very important. Very important enough for me to say very important. And then you can highlight it and put a couple of exclamation marks beside it. Do not round the standard deviation and then square what you've written on your paper. That 371,000, we rounded it to the nearest 10th, correct? If we square what we wrote down on our paper, then we've already rounded, and squaring makes the error bigger. Like if you round something to the nearest 10th, and then you square it, you've made the error even bigger than what you rounded it to. So instead of squaring what you wrote down, either leave all the digits on your calculator and then hit the square button so the calculator squares all of them, or you can go to that same list and just scroll down to number 8. Let me show you. If I wanted the variation, if I wanted the variation for the coaches' salaries, I wouldn't, if this was a part A, B, C in the homework, and I had already written down that for the standard deviation, I wouldn't just square what I had written down. I'd either square this whole thing, which would be fine, to square that whole thing, my X square button's in the first column right above log. And notice if I just press that square button, it understands that I want to square the previous answer. So I had this on my screen, and then all I did was press the square button, and the calculator said, okay, I'll square your previous answer. The variance for the coaches' salaries, ooh, what is that 1.38 E11? If I put 1.38 down for the variation in the homework, is that going to be right? Not even close, because this means what? 1.38 times 10 to the 11th. Is that huge or tiny? That's huge. 10 times 10 times 10, 11 times, that's huge, which means move the decimal to the right 11 places. I could move it 2 places, but then I'd have to add 9 zeros. So make sure if you wrote that down, actually, let me write down the other digits. 1.38067, 609, 5. All right. That lets me have more precision when I move my decimal 11 places to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm only going to have to add 2 zeros. $138 billion. That's what I would have to put in for the variation in the coaches' salaries. Now, if you had not asked me to find the standard deviation first, if I didn't already have that on my calculator, then I would go back to second and list, move the cursor back over to math, and just scroll down until you see 8. 8 says variance. So choose variance and then tell the calculator, I want the variance for list 1. You get the same thing. So you can find variation either way. If you already have the standard deviation on your screen, just hit the square button. If you don't already have the standard deviation on your screen, then go back to the math menu and choose standard deviation.
Variance list 1.
Yep. And then enter. All right. So you should have this answer written down as 138 million and then the rest of the numbers. Make sure that you understand all of this notation. Little s is the sample standard deviation, and the symbol for sample variance is just s squared. Whatever s is, square it, and that gives you the sample variation. Sample variance. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Sample variance. If sigma is the symbol for the population standard deviation, then sigma squared is the symbol for population variance. And over, I'm going to say it is not sufficient to say what's the standard deviation. You have to say what is the sample standard deviation or what is the population standard deviation, because they're very likely to be two different things.